Well, let's move on to bring you the 2020 year in review, as the year has been characterized by unprecedented challenges both in the local and global front. This necessitated and still requires the needed stimulants and new conversations around revenue generation, tackling COVID-19 pandemic and the global economic meltdown. For Nigeria, the response required remains robust, replicating models and approaches adopted on the global front, but domesticating them to suit the peculiarities of the time. Quarter on quarter, each period came with new twists of events, challenging the nation's status quo, setting a new task for government to stabilize the economy. This year alone, we have witnessed more from government's attempt to stem the tide, from increase in value-added tax of 7.5% from 5%, to price modulation mechanisms in response to all demands and COVID-19 interventions. The times are further changing as we have a new challenge to deal with. That's the second wave of COVID-19. Now, a lot more, however, is required as economic watchers have their eyes fixated on new moves by the federal government in terms of policy direction to be adopted in tackling the myriads of challenges that the country is faced with, consolidating on current monetary and fiscal efforts. I have joining me now live from our Abuja studios to deliberate more on policy direction of government and its impact on everyday Nigerians. He's a senior economist at SPM Professionals, Mr. Paul Alaji. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Alaji.
Thank you so very much for having me. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. We're both wearing a red tie, so I think that's to celebrate Christmas. But Mr. Alaji, it's really good to see you, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Like I said in the intro, we had a lot to grapple with this year. We started with COVID-19, later it was the NSAS protests, Tonsar. We saw all that happened, economic meltdown, lockdowns. Now we're in recession. And the second wave of COVID-19 is another thing we have to grapple with. Now, Paul, take us through what you think and what has happened, where we are, and where are we going to be as we move on in 2021.
Yeah, so 2020, a year of unprecedented challenges, inflation, one of the key macro parameter, which of course is not just for the macro economy, but also of significance to monetary authority. We started at about 12.8%. Today, we're on 14.89%. I doubt if we escape 15% when December figures comes out because of pressure or demand. Thankfully, government eventually relaxed the inter-land borders lockdown or restriction that was in place. Even though I've had this discussion with you on this program before, that I doubt if the lockdown, if the closing of land borders would achieve certain aims government intend. Even though we've been able to achieve some gains, but it may not be significant enough because when you look at what is driving inflation, it's food inflation at over 18%. Insecurity is another major factor, which seems to be more potent this year than what we had in 2018 and 2019, which I think government made a lot of gains, but maybe because of lockdown, which was unprecedented because of COVID. Lockdown seems to give insurgents some energy to re-strategize, and kidnapping activity became stronger. Banditry in Northwest, terrorism became even more potent compared to last year in Northeast. It's North Central continue to witness kidnapping, which extended to Kaduna, which of course is part of North. And the situation has not really changed in the southern part of the region. So when you look at other employment figures from what the last figure released before the recent one, 23.1% Q2 2018 or Q3, I beg your pardon, to what we have now, 27.1%, 28.6 according to National Bureau of Statistics. Nigeria, National Bureau of Statistics also released figures, minus 6.1%, a negative growth rate, which was substantiated into a recession into minus 3.64%, which means Nigeria is now officially or technically in a recession. So Nigeria was beaten left, right, and center in terms of economy. Security has not really been helpful. It also becoming more of challenge to an economy. And you know that security and and economy as well as health, they are triplets that cannot be separated. If your security is not functional, it's not strong enough, then don't forget about the economy. If the health is challenged, forget about the economy. This is economy receiving both from security and also from health. But that does not mean authority has not done a number of things. Thankfully, the Central Bank of Nigeria and in fact Monetary Policy Committee recall that policy rate at the time was 14%, reviewed to 13.5%, later come down to 12.5%. Right now we talk about 11.5%. That was because of Monetary Policy Authority wants to change the vision, the goal of just looking after price stability in exchange rate and also in inflation figures, so that to support what fiscal authority is not doing enough in order to find price stability. Today, even though inflation remains 14.89%, so high, which I doubt will not get to 15 when December figures comes according to the National Bureau of Statistics, I'm looking at possibly a 15% inflation rate. But growth, at least Nigeria was able to leave the horrible stage of minus 6.1% to minus 3.64%, which is relatively better than what we were in Q2. What Q4 will be, I doubt if Nigeria will have positive growth. I'm not envisaging that, because in Q4 we had answers. In Q4, almost 40 to 60% of the economy is being shut down. A presidential task force has announced a total closure of event center. Has also re-emphasized the lockdown period, which is between 12 a.m. to 4 a.m. Lagos State Governor has also made some new restrictions, education, etc., recorded in the north, particularly areas around Katsina and the suburb. Have also said students should stay at home 5 weeks. That is what presidential task force announced, which means economic impact of the economy will continue to reduce. Recall that when demand continues to reduce, there is supply, you have some level of imbalance. But in this case, it is supply production that reduced. I understand federal government is projecting that by 2021, all will be well. And I've said time and again that we should take this and we should make projection with a lot of caution. Even though there is hope, unlike the first phase of COVID, when there was no hope for vaccine, there seems to be hope of vaccine right now. But even at that, there seems to be new threat of COVID in South Africa, within the African continent, and Britain, which of course has a lot of relationship with Africa and Nigeria. We've seen countries announcing new lockdown measures, which of course may have impact on 2021. So looking at 2021, government is projecting over 13 trillion naira budget for Nigeria.
Allow me, Botin, Paul, before you move to 2021 budget, allow me, Botin. Paul, you touched on borders being reopened, and the argument is being this could be because of the AFCFTA, which should, the implementation should begin 1st of January. Some are saying that's why the borders have been opened. And on the side, what do you make of policy measures now before we move to 2021? You've talked about what the monetary side did. What about the fiscal side? Did they complement each other? Do we have that synergy that will really move us in 2021 out of recession? CBN governors are from that this could happen. Minister of Finance has said this could happen. Are you following this? Do you agree to this submission?
Well, I'm a realist and I'm an economist.
Okay.
My training is not economics of hope, it's economics of reality. It's not just it's economics of hope, but not economics of wish, I beg your pardon. I've seen a lot of wishful thinking in making projection that Nigeria will have positive growth. The driver of positive growth in Nigeria is not just those projections, it is what happened to global oil prices and by extension, what happens to foreign exchange. Recall that in January, Nigeria exchange rate officially was less than 310, about 306 to 308. Today, exchange rate at official window is about 379 if you go by what is projected in 2021 budget. But in the real sense of it, any window as a Thursday this week, as a Tuesday this week was 392 naira because I was a participant in that market. It was 392 naira. When you compare the difference, 90 naira, find the percentage of what it was in the previous about about 30%. And you can see the reality in the valuation of Naira. So do I hope that the economy will suddenly rebound if nothing happened to global oil prices? My projection is it may be a reality if Nigeria starts selling oil prices for approximately $55 per barrel. But if that does not happen, I doubt if we will come out of recession. The projection is second quarter for our organization, and which I stand with. Second quarter, yes, Nigeria may come out of recession and record its first positive growth. But if we don't handle the new trend of COVID very well, and we get back into a point where we lock down the economy, after the first 5 weeks announced by Presidential Task Force, I doubt even if that second quarter will be a reality. COVID is real, and we need to take all measures, using of face masks, physical and social distancing, washing of hands with soap and water. These are things that have been said. It is easier said than done. More and more Nigerians, and in fact, everyone in the world must come together, yes, to fight this common enemy, which is not just against our health, but more importantly, against the economy, and contribute. Nigeria is a country that has its own challenges already in security. I've explained the impact of security and health on the economy of the country. And when we're already having a challenge with security, we see military doing a lot, we see the police, etc., etc. Recall that NSAS was campaigned directly against a division in police, which of course later took a shape on the economy, because you cannot talk security without economy. You can imagine rich people in our society, when you get money to a point, you start looking for security because you want to stay alive to spend the money you have generated. So you cannot explain away relationship between security and economy.
Yes.
And the same with health, because another invisible force that could take life suddenly is health. So Nigeria needs to now take necessary measure, and government is being tasked on this front, and also to talk to citizens of the country to take extra measure, so that the projection of Honorable Minister of Finance and Budget and National Planning, as well as the Central Bank Governor, who are two major individuals leading institutions talking of monetary policy and fiscal policy, the projection will become a reality. If we don't do this, I'm afraid it's just a wish. I hope it becomes a reality.
Mr. Laje, you touched on crude oil price, which is beyond our control. It's a global issue. Now, we see Nigerian government looking at gas at this time. The report we had earlier, and a chart with the MD of Nigeria Petroleum Development Company Limited. Government seems to be very aggressive when it comes to adopting cleaner energy at this time, LPG and all of that. Do you see this as a perfect match for proceeds we get from crude?
It's a great beginning, and I think that government should have looked at where you have market first. It's only the business of government you start upside down. In private sector, nobody goes into a business without considering market. Laji Aliko Dangote, very wealthy, richest black man on earth, but he's not producing aeroplane, he's not producing helicopter, because he knows that immediate community don't have enough resources to buy. What is he producing? The salt in your kitchen, the sugar in your kitchen, in your tea. That's what he produces. The man has refused to produce iron. Is producing cement, which you cannot do without. The building you are in Lagos, the one I'm here in Abuja, and everyone viewing us, handing it around, you need some form of cement. That is why it's rich. It is not because it was created differently. It's simply because he understood how business works. Fast track to government. Where is the market? Where you have industries, which is Lagos, Ogun, Port Harcourt, Kano. These are three major zones that we should look at. It truly wants to break even on time. These are zones where people can afford and pay, particularly private sector. But if you continue to pipe to some lines, which I'm not saying government is making mistake, but I'm saying that government may not make as much as it would have made. If you are considered the market in tiers, tier 1 market, tier 2 market, before you go to tier 3 and tier 4 market. So it may not be politically right, but it makes a lot of economic sense.
Mr. Paul, let's take a minute. We need to pay some bills. We'll be back, and this discussion will continue. Stay with us. It's Your Business Nigeria.
What about you?
They win with OneXBet.
What about you?
He wins with OneXBet.
What about you?
OneXBet bookmaker company.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Glad to have you back. I still have senior economist, SPM professionals, Mr. Paul Alaje is joining me live from our Abuja studios. Mr. Paul, I'm now looking at policy issues, policy somersaults. We've had issues, we've had policies around Forex. We've loosened some, tightened up at some ends. What do you make of all of these policy issues and the effects on the figures that come out from the MBS, global issues, IMF, World Bank projections? How do you see our policies affecting all of these projections?
Well, I must be very sincere. When it comes to policy, sometimes we make policy because we want to achieve some very good desire. But some other time, we make policy because it becomes necessary, but it becomes a requirement for us to achieve some demands. So that's why some of the time, we seem not to see policy through. Another thing is that when policy are even made, there are no provision, there are no environment for these policies to be implemented. I tell you, one of the policy made in recent past is Economic Recovery and Growth Plan that projected Nigeria to have a significant growth, about 3 to 7% GDP growth rate. The end of that document showed that Nigeria had about 1.87% GDP growth rate. After that, we saw the recession. Before this negative growth, even when before COVID became potent in Nigeria, we were not able to achieve 30%, if you like, of the projection of Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. Does it mean that we have a wrong president? No. Does it mean that those who put the document together did not see well? No. It is because we do not have the right environment. Environment is everything. No matter what we put in place, and we do not consider that our economy is largely different from the economy we want to copy. I give you an instance. China, Indonesia, two countries. China, the origin of COVID is from China, COVID-19. But today, China refused to go into a recession. Indonesia, another country, larger than Nigeria in population, even in mass land, they have more people, they don't have single religion, they have different tribes. Today, Indonesia refused to go into a recession. What have they done? The power of the world relies on who produces the most for the entire world. It's not about your religion, it's not about your race, it's not about your language, it's not in your ability to speak English. It is the ability to understand how the global economy works. Whosoever produces the most will rule the rest. Indonesia is producing the most. In fact, have companies in Nigeria. I don't want to mention plan because they will not pay for the hard. The same with China. Most of the things that we consume today are produced in China. So even when people are on lockdown, and they want to go out, they need face masks, they need sanitizers, they need some other things. They are being produced by these countries for us to consume. The question is, apart from crude oil, what again are we producing in large and commercial quantity for the rest of the world? We're talking about agriculture. What form of agriculture are we practicing so that we can make policy? Is it peasant? Is it commercial or business farming? To the large extent, we need to get the skin of not just the federal government, which seems to be in recent time have been putting a lot in terms of agricultural policy, but we need state government to understand that the agriculture is not on exclusive, is on recurrent, is on concurrent list, and they need to do more in terms of partnership with those who are in their community. I strongly believe that the policy environment is not right enough, and that is why most of the policy we put in from structural adjustment program, we did not get the kind of result we expected. Needs, seeds, and leads, we did not get the kind of result that we expected. 7-point agenda, we were not able to achieve 2 out of the 7. Now Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, we did not measure up out of the 30% of what we are talking of a sustainable economic plan. And I doubt if we'll be able to achieve it, because even on that plan, there are some sectors that do not even know how much the available cost for some of this plan is not even there. Meanwhile, we have seen a lot of improvement from Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. As I can see, Ministry of Science and Technology or New Technology already put what they are looking at, I could see, for infrastructure. But there are some sectors that are not sure in terms of education. There's no certainty as to what we want to achieve. You see, the business of government is a serious business. It is not business like we have people just say, oh, it's our turn, let's just be part of it. At the end of the day, National Bureau of Statistics will release report, and we will use it to measure the performance. Again, World Bank and IMF had said 5 million Nigerians will join the poverty line. For me, no thanks to COVID, because of the recent activity that we have. But when we build a robust policy environment and we have the energy, the will, the understanding in, the miracle we perform in ease of doing business that lifted Nigeria to jump for about 20 points, if we can annex the same energy on some other things, I believe government will do just better.
Mr. Laje, one thing that is important in 2021 is that government needs to raise revenue. That is true. That's the only way we can meet up. And we've seen all of the running around, trying to get money from international donors and the World Banks and the likes. We've seen also issues around taxation, the Finance Act. Now, what do you make of all of this and revenue generation for Nigeria in the year 2021?
Well, when we were much younger, we hear that Nigeria flows with milk and honey. Now, government is now looking for where the milk is, because most of the places where they put straw is not milk, maybe water or dry land. And that is why government continue to borrow. For me, there are billions and trillions of naira in this economy that government is not even looking at. And we've said it time and again. I'm not even talking about production. Monies that belong to government, that government have left become proceeds of corruption for those that understood that government don't even know what is the asset base of Nigeria. The question is, does government even know where its assets are? Businesses operating in Nigeria that government don't even understand. And this is not just for issue of federal government, even state government. I see some assets and some operation going on around the country, and government don't even know what is supposed to, what is the percentage of revenue or payments that should go to government. So government seems to concentrate on the big fishes, which is crude oil, which is large company, and so on and so forth. And when government has achieved few aims, the rest will come from taxation. So for me, it's not just to have intention. Ability to work through your plan in order to create jobs and self-finance the project we brought in place is what makes the difference. And I hope that in the coming period, government will look deep again and look at the opportunities they are missing, and perhaps have interaction with some players in private sector, which may of course be of help for Nigeria to say we will come off the shackles of debt that we have found ourselves. When you look at 2020 budget, over 13 trillion, revenue is not up to 9 trillion. That means when you look at debt is quite huge, between 5 and 6 trillion approximately. So when you say we are generating and we are not, what is coming from crude oil, compare that to what we'll be borrowing, which means what we call the chicken that lays the golden egg, is not even sufficient enough. And when you look at what we spend to service debt, according to Debt Management Office, over 31 trillion naira already. Record that there is 1 trillion because we devalue our currency that was added to that debt profile, because when you devalue, what some economists don't understand, and they continue to encourage government to devalue. And I'm happy that central bank have maintained a lot of restraint in devaluing naira most of the time, except when they are out of option. When some economists come and say devalue, 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 I look at them with some level of concern, because what they don't understand is when you devalue, the money you are owing in dollars has also been devalued, and taxes you are collecting from your citizens is limited in supply, and you cannot overtax Nigerians, you know. So the concerns are there, and I hope that in the coming period, authorities will take the necessary decision to look at those areas, those concerns. It might not just be even payee that government is looking at. I'm not even talking of company income tax, whether you are expanding, you are widening the bracket, or you want to increase rates, which I don't recommend, because the country is in recession. It will be the wrong way to go. But there are some revenues meant for government that government is not looking at all, that has been personalized under private individuals. Nigeria government needs to go after, and I can tell you, you are talking of approximately 1 to 2 trillion naira that government is not considering and is wasting away. I think these monies belong to federal government of Nigeria and some state government, and we need to pick it up so that we can reduce the pressure of borrowings. When you remove that from money we want to borrow, again, we talk about people should use face masks. The president has announced it in the first phase of COVID. Presidential task force, Lagos State Governor, good enough, has also reminded Lagosian. The question is, if you go around Lagos, what do you see? A lot of face masks or less face masks. In the last 2 weeks, I've been to 7 states, 7. Only 2 states have seen some level of compliance. If government today come up with policy of mobile court, which I think Kaduna State Governor has said, but the level of implementation, I'm not more there, so I really don't know. If people pay 2,000 naira, I think Kaduna is 20,000. If people pay 2,000 to 5,000, and 100 million people don't comply, you can do the math at home. And anytime you are watching this video, 5,000 times 100 million. You know, one person will pay 2 times because some people just believe they don't want to comply. And when government put these policies in place and you multiply it, we may not need to look for money to buy vaccines for Nigeria. Money realized from that window is what we'll use to buy vaccines. But I doubt if government again will consider some of these options. It's not easy. You see, real money, sustainable money is not oil money. Sustainable money is not easy. You are going to put effort. That's why you see UK is good, you see Dubai is good, because they are money that are not made just from crude oil. They are money that are made from sweat. Government must understand when you come to office, either local, state, or federal legislature, executive, you are in for business. It is called the business of government, of governance.
Mr. Paul, we are out of time. But before you go, post-Brexit trade agreement, after months of negotiations. Now, let me tell you what Prime Minister Boris Johnson says. He said the agreement is a good deal for the whole of Europe, one that signified a new stability and a new certainty in what sometimes have been a fractious and difficult relationship. Side by side with the EFCFTA, where does Nigeria stand in all of this? Let's round up on that note. We are not insulated from anything that happens globally.
Yeah, well, the new agreement between UK and the rest of Europe talk about the EU. I can tell you it's not just good for UK, but it also means that the level of tension and uncertainty will significantly reduce as UK continues to adopt Brexit and it becoming a reality. I think in a couple of days we'll be seeing that becoming a reality. I think what Nigerian authorities should be looking at is where will Nigeria be in all of this? How do we maximize, protect our citizens and improve business community, get more businesses, production coming to Nigeria, perhaps sign new agreements with UK or EU, as the case may be. The most important thing is who is producing for who, not who is consuming for who. If you consume, you become the slave of the others, and not literally though, but if you produce, you become the master, because the rest of the world will depend on you.
Mr. Paul Alaje, I must thank you very much for your time. Senior economist, SPM Professionals, I appreciate this.
Thank you so very much. Merry Christmas.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Merry Christmas to you too.